everyone, this is Jennifer, and today we're going to be talking about my top 5 Traveler's Notebook covers. So I set a limit for myself for 2023 to only purchase 6 or less, actually, I think I worded it on my goals, less than 6 covers. I thought that was going to be pretty hard to do for my standard TN collection, considering I used to purchase one like every single month to kind of set up with a new color scheme, etc. But I am happy to report that I met that goal, and part of the reason is because I have a lot of notebooks that I already love, and that got me thinking about which ones were my favorites and why they were my favorite. And interestingly enough, it's for different reasons. So first, let me show you what I purchased for standard TN size this year. One of them is this Moterm in Apricot. I purchased this from a friend on Instagram, and it is in my top 5 for this video. And then the other standard TN cover that I purchased this year was this black cover from Eternal Leather Goods. And I really love this cover as well, but it's not, surprisingly, it's not in my top 5 of all time. But those were the 2 that I did purchase for 2023. I'm kind of giggling because I had put a poll up on my stories asking if you thought I met my goal of less than 6 covers, and most of you guys said no. And my friend Debbie commented, well, we just need to go back through your Instagram and we'll know if you're trying to deceive us, which makes me giggle. So I'm sitting here looking at my shelf. I have everything like on these really large cube shelves, and I am fairly certain that these are the only 2 standard size Traveler's Notebook covers that I purchased this year. But if I missed one, it is totally by accident. You can call me out and maybe I can add that to the comments or something, but I'm fairly certain these are the only 2 that I purchased. Okay, let's talk about my top 5. And aside from this beautiful blue notebook, you will see a theme here, I am sure. So 3 of my top 5 are here, very similar in color. And then I have this darker brown and this blue. So I think I'm going to start with the blue one first and talk about why it's in my top 5, and then we'll move on to some others. I don't know if I could necessarily put these in order like favorite children. This is my first, this is my second favorite, and so on. I just love all of these for very different reasons. This one is because of the squishiness of the leather and the color. This is from Chic Sparrow. I do not think this particular leather is currently stocked, and I honestly have forgotten the name of the color. So I'll have to look that up and put it in the description below if I can figure it out. And this is going to be hard, I realize, to do on camera because the camera doesn't always pick up every little detail that you see in real life, like all of these crinkles, how it smells, and for this one, how soft and squishy this is. So for me, this one is really about the leather itself and how it feels. The other thing that is really odd to me is that I could purchase 2 identical notebooks and sometimes they're not the same. I have a Chic Sparrow in a blue, navy blue color that I purchased in a 6 size, fell in love with it. So I ordered it in standard TN size, and it's obviously the same leather, but there's just something about the A6 size that I love more. And I'm not sure what that is because standard size is my favorite size. So there's always that to consider too, and how that works out, I'm really not sure, because you would think with the leather and them using like a template to cut and try to make everything exact, you think it would be the same, but sometimes that's not the case. I am not a huge fan of these cascade pockets from the Chic Sparrow either. It's not my favorite pocket configuration, but for this notebook, it works. And when I have my inserts in here, it holds the inserts really nicely as well. So this one is just like soft and cuddly and holds my inserts well. And when I have it open, my inserts lay very flat, and you can see that it lays flat when I open it, which isn't always the case with some stiffer leathers, and especially if they have a back pocket, but this one lays really nicely. So this is in my top 5. Speaking of a thicker leather, we're going to move on to another in my top 5, and you can still get this specific cover. This again is from the Chic Sparrow. This is in the Creme Brule. And this is one that took a while to grow on me. So when I got it, it was pretty stiff. I need to take my pencil board out of here anyway, so let me do that. And I tried to like roll it and get the spine to loosen up, and it sat on my shelf for at least a year before I really used it. And then once I put the inserts in, it took a couple of weeks to really mold to the inserts, just because I feel like it's a little bit thicker of a leather. Maybe it's just stiffer. It's definitely stiffer than this one, but it took a while. So it wasn't instant love, but after I had my inserts in it and gave it a chance, I don't think I'll ever part with this particular notebook. And again, this specific leather is one of the reasons I love this. And I really like the white contrast stitching on this one. And I prefer this heritage pocket configuration on this one as compared to the cascade pocket if you're talking Chic Sparrow notebooks. It's not my favorite pocket configuration of all my traveler's notebooks, and I'll get to that. But again, I like this pocket configuration better than the cascade pockets. And the thing that I love about this is how the leather has aged. I can't say that about all of my notebooks. And there's this, you know, a whole group of people in our community that love like really beat up, scratched up, well-worn leathers. And that is not me. I really am pretty careful with my notebooks, and I don't like it when they get super scratched up. I do not prefer leathers that scratch easily, and it took me a while to figure that out, but that's one of the reasons that I like this Creme Brule leather, is that it just ages so nicely and does not scratch easily. The other thing with this particular piece of leather is all the texture and then this little branding or scar mark that you see here. I think that makes this particular piece unique, and I absolutely love it. So this one is in my top 5 for those reasons. The other one in my top 5, I'm done with the Chic Sparrow, so I'm moving on, is this natural leather from Eternal Leather Goods. I had this one for years as well, and it's what prompted me to buy this black one. It's from the same manufacturer, and this leather looked more similar in color to this one when I purchased it, but the patina on it has kind of darkened it a little bit. And when I purchased this, I did not really think about the pocket configurations from Eternal Leather Goods. So you'll notice on my new black one, it has these pockets. When I ordered this one, I didn't really know that much about Eternal Leather Goods, and I just got this one that has like a secretarial flap on the front and the back, and I put a Foxy Fix adhesive on the leather. I don't know what's going to happen if I try to remove that at some point, but surprisingly, this did not bother me at all. In fact, I really enjoyed decorating these pockets. Now, the reason that I love this particular notebook is solely because of how it feels when my inserts are inside. So this one just has the perfect fit for me. It's like the Goldilocks fit, right? The inserts, and I typically have 4 to 5 inserts in my notebooks. I don't chunk them up a whole lot. The inserts come close enough to the edge, but there's no overhang. It's not super gappy. And my inserts lay flat in this notebook when I have it open. I would say out of all of my top 5s, this one, as far as fit goes, is my favorite. Not my favorite pocket configuration, and maybe not even my favorite leather, but it is in my top 5 just because of how it feels when it's all put together. It feels really good in my hand. And I realized this too, like even if I could take somehow magically, see, look at the profile difference on this. If I could magically somehow have a company that could take like this Chic Sparrow Creme Brule leather that I love and make it in this model and sizing with the snap and, you know, everything, it probably still would not be the same. So I recognize that the reason that this notebook feels so good is probably because of the specific leather that it's made out of. All right, let's move on. I'm going to talk about my Foxy Fix next. As far as I can remember, when I first discovered Traveler's Notebooks, I ordered a Chic Sparrow pocket size Creme Brule, and I ordered the standard size in the Santa Fe leather from the Foxy Fix. So unfortunately, the Foxy Fix is no longer in business. They're not open. But there is a buy-sell trade group on Facebook, and sometimes I'm still able to pick up used Traveler's Notebooks from the Foxy Fix there. So if you're looking at something like this and you're wanting to try Foxy Fix since they're no longer open, I would recommend checking out that Facebook group. If I can find it on my phone, I'll post a picture of what this leather looked like when I first purchased it. It is by far my favorite leather. Like, if I could only pick one leather for the rest of my planner life, it would be Foxy Fix Santa Fe. And when I first found Foxy Fix, they only have this small like card pocket situation available, and it is not my favorite, but this is still like the one for me. Like, again, my very favorite cover of all time. And the other thing that I've noticed is that this does not have a reinforced spine. And typically I prefer a reinforced spine. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, or are just getting started with Traveler's Notebook covers, I'm gonna link my Getting Started with TN's video where I talk about different things like reinforced versus non-reinforced spines. But even with the spine not being reinforced, this is my favorite cover of all time. Not sure why. Maybe it's because it was one of my first ones ever and like the emotional attachment that I have to it. I also go through these phases where I really prefer an elastic closure over like a clasp closure, and just depending on my mood. But this is just such a classic look to me and embodies kind of that emotional feeling that I go for when I'm setting up a notebook. So there's that. And then the last one in my top 5 is still available for purchase as well. This is from Moterm in the color Apricot. And the thing that I like about this cover that puts it in the top 5 for me is the pocket configuration in the front. It has this zipper section. It has the slip pocket, lots of credit card slots. I don't use it as a wallet, but I keep things pretty functional up here. And the back pocket configuration, so another slip pocket, secretarial pocket, lots of card slots, and then this pocket down here. It also has a really nice elasticized pin loop, so I can fit pretty much any pin I want into this. I don't always need a pin loop, and in some of my planners you'll notice, like this one I didn't even add one, and I just put my pin in the elastic. So that's not a make or break for me, but it is one of the reasons that I like this particular cover. The inserts fit nicely in here. Now, the thing I don't necessarily love is that it does have the big back pocket. Some people want that. I just have never really utilized them, and because that's more leather, that makes this even thicker of a profile, and it doesn't lay, it does like this seesawing, doesn't lay as flat as some of my other notebooks even. And this is the one I'm using currently. This is my current setup. Even, you know, when I turn to my pages, it's not horrible, but it's just not as perfect as some of those other covers in my top 5. I also sprayed this, which maybe I can find the video for that too. I sprayed it with a leather protectant so that it wouldn't ruin the leather. And let me just tell you a little horror story. The things we learn as we go along that we wish we would have learned. Remember me saying that I don't like my planners to be marked up? This was my first like luxury traveler's notebook. This is from Vander Spiek. I saved and saved to purchase this beauty in the Janet Leather Brown, and the inside is pretty close to what the outside used to look like. So here's my horror story. I got this, I set it up in the evening, and the next morning I left for church. And I had a bag that didn't zip or clothes with my stuff in it, including this planner. And I opened my back hatch to my car to get into the building, and it was raining, and the watermarks hit this planner, like the raindrops right here. I don't know if you can see that or not, and they never went away. And at first I tried just letting it sit and drying naturally. Some people said don't touch it because the oil on your fingers will actually make it worse. I did end up using a leather cleaner on this like a year and a half later to try to get rid of some of those marks. And I feel like I can still sort of see them. Now, those aren't the only markings because this particular leather does age differently than, say, this leather, right? Every leather is unique. So I think for 2024, I might look at purchasing another Vander Spiek for my standard size in like the Touch Me leather. But that's my horror story. And for me, liking my planners to look nice and new and unmarked, for it to happen the very first day that I was using this notebook, I was pretty devastated. So if you are a person that loves this aged leather look, that might not bother you at all. I don't think it's ugly. I just know in my mind what it used to look like when I first purchased it. And I prefer that brand new look as compared to this patina. But I will say the patina on this has really brought out some of the variation in the leather, like the texture that I couldn't see at first is really showing up as this ages. So there's that. And I also think that this pocket configuration is my very favorite ever. If I had to only have one setup as far as pockets go, it would be this one. And even though it has that favorite pocket configuration, because of the leather, it's not in my top 5, but I'm thinking if I purchased it in a different type of leather, that could be a game changer, and I might really love it. This one has a really good fit too, as far as the inserts hitting right at the right spot for me without too much overhang or too much gaping. It's really a good size. So not in the top 5, but a good contender. So I don't know that there's maybe one perfect notebook out there because, again, I love all of these in my top 5 for very different reasons, but I think that's part of it. And if you know me, you know I like to mix them up. So meaning I was in this one for about a month and I've already switched into this one, just something I enjoy doing. So I don't think I could ever pick just one and stay in it for the rest of my life. If I was made to, it might be this one. Maybe. It's hard to say. But I just wanted to kind of talk you through each of those of my top 5 and why I like them all for those unique reasons. If you are a Traveler's Notebook cover user, collector, and you want to chat with me about your favorite notebooks and why they're your favorite, I would love to have that discussion with you because, you know, I do want to expand my collection, keep it under control. I was pleased with 2023. For 2024, again, I'm looking at maybe a Vander Spiek in a different leather. But yeah, these are the top 5 in my collection, and thanks for coming along with me for the chit chat. Bye, guys.